Do you guys ever go to Moe's place down in Beaver?
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
Not too much. It's always really busy, it seems like.
You're rolling when you're ready, but I can edit so you can talk, get yourself ready to go.
Cerise will edit, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can edit
And
too.
some of this, of course, goes up on videos, so we do that. I'm just going to get me a quick drink, and then we'll head back. Okay, did it seem to go pretty fast?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, so we're only going to have 9 minutes. It's going to feel really fast this time. Then I'm going to go meet my husband for coffee.
I'm going to wake mine up.
Yeah, you should. I didn't realize you guys were such newlyweds. Mm-hmm. That's pretty exciting. Okay. We're back, and this is Joan with the Joan Jerkovich Show, 910 KINA. Again, want you to stay tuned in because we're talking right now to one of our new young medical students here at the new KU, University of Kansas Medical School here in Salina. And then we're going to be talking to Shaman Jim. He's an actual Cherokee shaman, going to come in and talk about how he's a healer in his own way. So Kayla, we're just kind of talking about, the big decision that this had to be a mutual decision with you and your new husband of 2 months. And do you think you guys have a sense for what the commitment and the time commitment's going to actually be for this?
I'm not sure. I'm hoping we have at least somewhat of a sense for it. I think both of us will be in for a little bit of a shock when we really get down to it. We've kind of been told to warn our spouses that we will, be neglecting them a little bit for studying at points and times.
So they told you that in the orientation process here?
Yeah, in a roundabout way, kind of said, you got to be selfish sometimes and really concentrate on your studying.
So wasn't that a lovely thing for a new bride to hear? So how did you go home and break the news? I mean, I'm sure you went home and said, oh, guess what they told us today in orientation?
I actually did. I put it a lot nicer.
Okay.
Like, I think he realizes, because he's been talking to some fellow spouses of former med students at all these events that we've gone to during orientation week, and so he's getting little warnings.
Yeah, because it is a huge commitment, and I know that you're going to spend so many times with your head in that computer. I'm sure you have the computer. They have the notebooks. What do they call that actually?
Tablets.
They call them tablets, and those things. Did you have to sign your life away to get one of those? Because
it's actually part of our tuition cost. They are required.
Right, they're required, of course, because that's your whole curriculum right there in the tablet.
They have so many features on them. They're pretty interesting.
Are you getting kind of used to that, or do you get a good orientation to that as well?
We get a good orientation today, actually. After this, I'll be learning all about my tablet.
Oh, well, that thing's going to be like, attached to you. It's going to be like an implant.
Be one.
Well, because I know with my stepdaughter going through this and then watching her husband, they had just started dating when he started school, and I thought, oh man, if this relationship can last that first year of med school, I think that's going to be a keeper. And sure enough, they've been married for 2 years now. So what do you envision some of the things you're really looking forward to learning with your training? Did your previous experiences where you talked about all your sports injuries make you think of a certain direction? What are you most looking forward to learning?
I'm really open to all the different fields right now. I'm not really sure what I'm going to go into.
Right.
Probably like primary care is obviously for rural areas mostly what I'm looking into, but right now I'm just kind of excited to get the whole process underway.
And of course, what would your vision of primary care be? Just what you even know about it. What kind of things do you see yourself, learning through these next 4 years, and then studying and then doing?
Family practice, pediatrics. I'm excited to see how I handle pediatrics and stuff. I'm kind of interested in that.
Well, that's interesting. Was that because of something in your family? Have you had a chance to do a lot of child care, babysitting? How is it that pediatrics kind of has a special interest?
I have, let me count right, 4 nieces and 2 nephews and 1 on the way, and I'm very close to them. Love them all.
Did you get to do a lot of babysitting and childcare?
Yes, since they all live in the Barton County area, I get to hang out with them a lot, so it's fun.
Well, good, and thankfully, I'm hoping that you haven't had any real medical crisis. That,
Nope.
yeah, that's a good thing there too, and so it's kind of interesting when I even decided to go into nursing a little bit. There just has to be that little spark of something. And were you always really like a good student?
In high school, I think I really started being really concerned about my studies, and there's always a couple of, in college when I didn't really know what I was doing, I maybe wasn't the best student, but for the most part, I've always been very on top of my studies.
Well, like you said earlier, though, just to even get into medical school, you have a pretty hard road to go.
Yeah.
With your MCAT that you have to take, the testing that you have to do, and all of that. And there's a lot of prep that goes into that. So you have to be a good student, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And you've kind of developed some study habits that are going to have to carry through with you to this point. What would you say? We know that you had to come in, and all of the students that came to the small campus of Salina had to come in with a certain academic, criteria. But what would you say? Did you feel that there was something in the selection process looking for smaller town people to get into this inaugural program?
I kind of think they were looking for people that were actually really sincere about what they wanted to do later in life, not so much, I'll say this, I get into medical school. That's my feelings on it.
Did you feel they sort of tried to screen some of the students that might have come from smaller towns, that might want to stay in a smaller town or go back? Because that's kind of the focus, at least in the New York Times it mentioned that, and I've heard that as well. The focus is we've got to train doctors to go back to our smaller communities.
Yes, I'm sure that's how it went. I'm not.
And you're getting to know some of your classmates. Now, they come from smaller towns, or can you tell me a little bit about where they come from?
For the most part, it sounds like they all do. I know a few of the towns, and some of them are small enough that I haven't heard of them, so I'm guessing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, like
I hadn't heard of your husband's town even,
No.
I thought, where's that? That's in Kansas.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that, I was involved since my husband George is one of the medical community here. I was at a medical society meeting where one of the professors from KU came up to first talk to the doctors in Salina and present the idea of having a medical school here. And he talked quite a bit, and there were a couple of them that talked to us that evening, and they talked quite a bit about the dire need for doctors in our rural communities. And one of the things that he said, and it was kind of an interesting evening because I was sitting at a table with about 8 or 10 of us, and doctors with their spouses. And he said, if you've got the academic criteria, you've got the academic basics, and you know what a bucket calf is, you're in. Do you know what a bucket calf is, Kayla?
I don't.
You don't?
I've heard
you're
the term,
from Odin.
and I know I would be really frowned upon right now, but I do not know for sure.
Well, don't feel surprised, because out of the 8 or 10 people at our table, there was only one I knew, and there was only one other person who knew, and that was Dr. Ken Schwartz, who is actually also from my hometown of Hoisington, and he's an emergency room doctor here in Salina. And we kind of looked at each other, and we looked around the table, and there were a lot of people going, "What's a bucket calf?" and then, of course, the professors just told us what it was. And of course, a bucket calf is the calf that you're feeding out of a bucket. We'd always get like a powdered milk. We'd mix it up. And it's just like this bucket that has this long nipple on the end of it, and of course, then you literally hand feed the calf, when it's weaned from its mother or whatever.
I think I've actually seen that. I just didn't know it was the name.
Yeah, it's a bucket calf. And it was kind of funny when I first heard that, because I obviously went home then and I called my nephew Ryan Hoffman, who's a student up at Fort Hayes, and I've been bugging him to death, and I think his family, or his mom and dad, I'm not sure if they appreciate it or not, but I'm like, Ryan, you know what a bucket calf is. You can get into medical school. Not to mention he's a very good student too, but considering he's planning to come back and join the family farm, I don't think they're wanting Aunt Joan to keep bugging him about being a doctor. So, well, Kayla, I've probably done more of the talking here, but it's been fun to talk with you and get a little glimpse of what it's going to be like for you to go into school here at our inaugural KU Medical School, one of our first students, and I wish you lots of luck.
Thank you.
Okay.
Muslim concept, but I have mixed with, I've been to the Vatican in Rome, okay? I used to preach in the Baptist church right here in Salina. I've done it all.
Now, what did you do to do that? Did you have some training as
Not in the
Baptist?
fundamentalist type, because you're just like called. I would take place for I preach at the spiritual church in Wells. What's interesting is there was a bunch of Indians there one time, and then I told them about Jesus had a power animal.
Oh.
No way. I said, yeah. Okay, what happened when
Okay,
John
tell
the
me more
Baptist-
about Jesus had a power animal.
When John the Baptist
Yeah,
baptized Jesus, right?
yes.
Okay, well, when he came up out of the water, what? The Spirit, the dove, descended upon him.
Oh, that's...
So that was his spirit. In other words, he was to represent that energy of the dove, okay? And I also told him he went on a Humblecha. A Humblecha is a vision quest,
Okay.
where they go sit on a mountain for 4 days with no food, no water until they get visions.
Well, they lost me right there.
Oh, well, the second day you start getting visions of
Yeah,
Ronald McDonald's. And
Yeah, I was going to say,
Coca-Cola.
you're going to get visions
And I
of
said,
water.
but Jesus did that too. And I said, it's right here in Matthew. So I
Yes.
went to Matthew, okay, and said, okay, look here. The Spirit led him into the desert, except instead of 4 days, he was out there 40 days and 40 nights, right?
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, and to be tempted of the devil, etc. But, so, you know, the various religions, I mean, I was in a Buddhist temple in Shanghai, China, on Kuan Yin's birthday. In fact, that's where the reclining, golden Buddha's at. And the Taoism's fantastic. I've seen some really cool Taoist temples.
Oh, I'll bet you've got some of that. Well, you talk about the power animals. I have, my husband was Joan Jerkovich. He was talking with a friend of ours, Phil Black, and we were discussing this whole power animal thing, and Phil kind of steps up and goes, I think my power animal's an earthworm. And George comes in and goes, I think mine is a sea sponge. And of course, you get where they're going. They
True,
were a little bit
but even
sarcastic about it.
But even those have lessons.
Well,
A worm
I
has 10
should go.
hearts, you know that?
No, I didn't.
Cut
In
that
fact, I'm
worm
going
in
to go
half,
back
and
and tell that guy.
he keeps on growing. Though he's got 10 hearts.
I don't see Phil Black
Well,
having
the whole
10
thing about
hearts,
a
but
power animal is, what does that animal represent?
yes.
And it isn't like you only have one. They will talk to you all the time. Now, to show you how strange of a life I live, I'm walking into my nephew's house last night, and I was thinking about transformation and acceleration and how everything's accelerating at this point in time, and what's the human species going to do next? And I got to thinking about, butterflies, he starts as, he's a worm crawling around, right? Next thing you know, he's beautiful, flying, right?
Right.
And then I got thinking about the locusts, right? Those little, and so I'm thinking about those and how they crawl up on the tree, and then you see the little shells there, right? Well, as I'm thinking that, I open the screen door, close it, and I hear this buzz, and there's that critter right there caught in the door with its wing. That's almost like the Creator saying,
we want
"Amen."
to we want to get into our interview because there's just so much
Yeah.
we're gonna fall right into here. Are you ready, Cerise?
I am.
We're gonna do 13, then we're gonna do 8. Let me just get this started. Yeah, you're good. Well, this is Joan, and I'm back with the Joan Jerkovich Show, 910 KINA. As I said this morning with my guest, that was the KU medical student. We're going to talk about a different kind of medicine, a different kind of healer, because I have here with me today Jim Haynes. Jim is a medium. He practices energy work, different forms of massage. He has been called an Indian shaman, and he's just going to have a whole lot to tell us about, his work, healing people, working with the spirit world, and he's just got a wealth of information. Hi, Jim.
Hello.
So what do you want to talk about first? There's so much to hear.
Well, yeah, and people get to talking to me and they just say, oh my gosh, you know so much, and you're so smart. And I say, well, yeah, but the more you know you don't know. Okay, so I think the most important thing is to understand that in this point in time, we're in an accelerated flow